Hey soldiers, it seems like inflation is poised to remain high. Meanwhile, interest rates are rising and Americans are facing tax increases. In fact, we've got a 1-2 punch of tax increases coming up. I'll explain it to you. And we're also going to talk about some assets, some sectors that are probably going to do well in spite of this impending global recession. Damn! Federal Reserve Bank of Richmond President Thomas Barkin says getting inflation under control is going to be necessary to set up what we have the potential to do in the economy. Barkin warned the Fed must curb inflation even if this causes a recession. Now look, we're already in a recession. Let's address that. For whatever reason, the Biden administration has chosen to focus on redefining terms as opposed to addressing actual issues. But we've already had 2 quarters of negative GDP growth. That's the way that they've been defining this thing since the 70s. We showed you on a previous video how they even went back into the past and redefined recessions under that definition. So we are in a recession currently. But what Barkin is basically hinting at is that it'll get a lot worse before it gets a lot better, because the Fed really wants to bring that inflation rate. They've said they want to get it back down to between 3 and 2%, or between 2 and 3%. And we're a long way away from that, folks. Now, he goes on to say, I've convinced myself that not getting inflation under control is inconsistent with a thriving economy. And I can't, fault him on that. I tend to agree. Barkin further added that I've been supportive of front-loading. The Richmond Fed president's comments echoed European Central Bank Schnabel's words of warning that even if we enter the recession, it's quite unlikely that inflationary pressures will abate by themselves. Now, if the European Central Bank is saying that, China's having trouble. Okay, we know that they're also having trouble. So all of these major world economies are in kind of a funk right now. I did read that of all countries, Hungary is doing well. They've had GDP increases. But them aside, it looks like the major world economic powers are setting the tone for a global recession. Now, I don't like these high prices. They are a drag on all of our ability to purchase assets. I'm going to go over some assets that are being purchased in a moment. You can explore those sectors on your own to see if they have any merit for you. But it also seems like the powers that be are finding money and resources in this fight against Russia. We are going to actually be sending more money to Ukraine. All right. Now, that sets up a possibility that these defense contractors are going to have more profits. It's going to be more profitable. Once you drop a bomb, you have to replace it. And in order to do that, you've got to spend some money. The only people buying that kind of stuff en masse are world powers, governments with deep pockets, or blank checkbooks. The U.S. announces new $800 million Ukraine arms package. Now, we've already spent about $56 billion in arming Ukraine. And that's just us. The United States has spent the bulk of this money. Poland, the United Kingdom, they're bit players. They've spent some money, but nowhere near what we have, as you can see from the chart. And meanwhile, they look like they're anxious to drive us into a light depression. Even Jamie Dimon over at JP Morgan says that he sees something worse than a depression. We did that video the other day. So take a look at the defense stocks. The defense sector is one that has done very well this year. Again, their clients are folks with a lot of money to throw around, okay? And it seems like America wants World War III. You've got a third congressional delegation headed to Taiwan in the coming weeks. That started out with Pelosi visiting. Then Ed Markey and his group, Senator Ed Markey, they went over right after her. And now we got a third one going over. So we're, agitating this situation. Seems like we're trying to ramp up the rhetoric and drive this situation to a head. If that occurs, which I hope it does not, and we go into a war, we did the video with Ray Dalio, and he was talking about the steps that usually are taken that lead up to a hot war, and we're already in the 4th of 5 stages. So if we get into that situation, then, looking at it from a business standpoint, the defense contractors are going to be one of the corporations that do well. Another sector that will do well under those unfortunate circumstances is the oil sector. It takes energy to prosecute a hot war. Occidental soars after a filing shows that Warren Buffett is seeking a 50% stake in the company. A filing with the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission shows that Warren Buffett, his Berkshire Hathaway company, applied for authorization to grow its stake in Occidental Petroleum from around 20% to 50%. To be exact, I think he owns like 16% of the company now, which is sizable. But he wants to go up. He wants to go all the way, man, and take it up to 50%. On July 11th, 2022, Berkshire Hathaway filed an application pursuant to Section 203A2 of the Federal Power Act, requesting authorization for applicant to acquire in secondary market transactions up to 50% of the common stock of Occidental Petroleum Corporation. So Warren Buffett seems to feel that oil is not dead. Okay, let's talk about oil for a minute. You got a lot of rhetoric coming out of Congress and these bureaucratic and policy makers worldwide talking about how evil oil is. Well, let me tell you something. Oil is a derivative and ingredient in a lot of things. Plastics, some medications, asphalt. The list goes on and on and on. Okay, so it's not just something that powers your car. Take away oil and you take away modern life, and not just to power vehicles. Okay, so Warren Buffett seems to have some intel that oil is going to be around for a while. Now, let's talk briefly and we'll end it on this. The Fed is in one hell of a position. Now, I told you before, as far as the tax increases, the 1-2 punch is coming. So look at all of the pressure that we as Americans are facing in terms of just the middle class, okay, the citizens, middle class and the poor. All right, they've gone ahead and given the authorization to beef up the IRS, even arm them. So, you get a digit wrong, God help you. So we've got tax increases coming in that new bill. Okay, who's going to pay for the $740 billion Inflation Reduction Act? Taxpayers. Okay, we've seen in multiple videos $242,000. That's your share as a taxpayer of the $30 trillion and rising national debt. So we got that one tax increase coming. Then we got the expiration or the sunset of the evil Donald Trump tax cuts. Okay. That's going to sunset. So we got in 2025. So boom, boom. Okay. Then we've got, again, these rising interest rates. We talked about in the beginning of the video how the Fed is focused on stopping inflation. And the only tool they have in their quiver to be able to do that is to increase these interest rates, okay, and slow down this economy. They have one other tool, but I'm not going to go into that right now. But the main tool they have right now is to increase these interest rates, and they're actively engaged in doing that. So we got increasing interest rates, we got tax increases, and then we have persistent inflation. Remember when Joe Biden said this?
I'm sick of this stuff. We have to talk about it because the American people think the reason for inflation is government spending more money. Simply not true.
The poor man doesn't understand the world, and how could he? He hasn't ever worked. I think he worked one real job, and that was when he was a lifeguard and went up against Corn Pop. And after that, he's been in public office for almost, as long as I've been alive, okay, half a century. And he's just out of touch. He doesn't know what he's talking about. So we had 8.5% inflation. That's the headline number. I know it's higher, but let's just deal with their headline number. 8.5% inflation year over year, number for July. Okay. So that doesn't mean that we had zero inflation. Okay. It just grew at a slower pace, but still well above normal. And for all of those who say, yeah, but we had 0% inflation in the month of July. That's not true. We've demonstrated to you time and time again, put the chart up again, we had food inflation of 10.9%. What to a human could be more important than food? Oxygen, maybe, but we don't pay for that yet. They'll figure out a way. And then they'll tax you on it. So food inflation was up 10.9. Now let's just go ahead and call it what it is, 11%. So the most important aspect that you interact with in the economy is skyrocketing, okay? So indeed, we've got inflation, rising taxes, and rising interest rates. This is why it's important to cast your vote wisely. Don't cast your vote based on any emotional aspect. Cast your vote based on dollars and cents, okay? And maybe one day we can get out of this mess that we're in. But until then, please continue, until then and beyond, purchase assets. We've talked about fractional shares of stock. You can do that. You can go out and take a look at different commodities and how to get involved with that. The point is you have to do your due diligence and continually purchase assets. And one of the ways to get rich is to never sell those assets, okay? Just continue to find sources of income. Add sources of income so that you can live your life, enjoy your life. Go out and enjoy your life. But as you acquire assets, hold them. Because when you hold them, they increase in value, and with very few exceptions, you're not paying taxes on an asset that you have not liquidated. Now, there's kind of a caveat to that. There is a caveat to that. Stocks. If you have a dividend-paying stock outside of some qualified plan, that dividend is taxable, okay? But beyond that, if you hold an asset and you don't sell it, with the exception, of course, again, of real estate is another one because you pay property taxes on real estate. But if you own investment real estate, of course, you can pass that cost on to whomever is renting the property from you. But if you're just a homeowner and you're living in the house, yes, you're going to pay property taxes. I know some states have kind of tried to phase out property taxes for senior citizens, which is a good idea. They need to own the home at some point, and they've paid the mortgage, then they don't need to continue to pay the state. Give us a break. Give the seniors a break. I'm not a senior yet. So that's the way I look at it. I don't want to sell any assets. That way I protect myself from taxation while the value of the asset, quality assets, continue to appreciate. Okay, guys? All right, so now that we've gone through our Saturday video, I want you to take a look at this video right here. We talked about inflation. Look at what Zimbabwe's doing with regard to their rampant inflation. Zimbabwe's been notorious for inflation, but look what they're doing to stem the tide of inflation and give their citizens an opportunity to hold on to the value of their money. Not currency, money. Guys, I'll talk to you soon.